The medical miracle. What does that mean for most? It means we're going to perform one, right? Or is it we're going to discuss why certain souls are programming their minds to believe in the idea of it and not receiving those visions as such, versus those who know how to embody the vision of my body is my playground, and therefore I don't need to create illness in order to feel like there's something wrong with who I am. Okay, most people will start to understand what it's like to do the vision of love with your own soul. This is who I am. This is where I vibrate. This is what I create. This is who you are in your moment. This is how you do your vision. This is the way in which we all play with our souls. We create from a state of anxiety. That is one state that many would say this vision of Brenda was able to create from. She has conquered it for the most part. What she does is she aligns with those who create the systems in which they don't need to have anxiety in order to let them know that there is something not quite right. You see, the state of anxiety can often be attributed to past medical issues, correct? And then many will start to create from that place of, I am somehow flawed in my creative process. There is always more going on behind the scenes. Some of you do not even realize what your thoughts are creating. And that's the nature of why we often help people who are wanting to know, why do I feel the way that I do in this moment? Why am I creating the vision of love if my vision feels like hate? Some people will say that to create from a place of love of self is somehow bad, because in essence, isn't that the whole point? I am here loving who I am. Whether or not I am physically fit or capable of performing a miracle is of no consequence for some of us who are saying I'm of struggle in my mind with my medical condition. I have a mother and a father who love who I am. That's one thing. I was brought into this world with a medical condition that I also created with, knowing full well as a child I was not able to do that work on my own. So when I tell you that the visions of love of those who continue to reinforce the idea of sickness as a needed way to rest, that can be part of it, or it can be a planned illness from one level of understanding. Others will use those visions as exit points out of this plane. It depends on the soul. So what happens when we say, I've performed a miracle in my own body, versus those who are of intuition, right? The medical miracle is when Brenda gets others' conditions brought through for her into her own awareness of her own body. And she can feel the vision of her soul giving her the information that is of use for many. What it does not say is how to cure it, correct? You would have to have a session, and you would have to understand that your own abilities to create from that same space has to be honored. You are not just going to have it, it's like honesty. If you are not in it to win it, don't even bother. I know how to do the work of Jesus as a soul savior. That's where many go. He was my savior. They count on that soul to come through and say what is needed in the moment. At some point, they will start to understand that his vision is always there as a loving, guiding force behind many. But what you have not understood for the most part is that our own family trees can often hinder us or help us in the process of growth of love of self or of others. So you see, my family tree keeps wanting me to come through to perform a miracle for them. If you are here on this plane of development, every day you are here can be felt as a miracle. You are surviving, right? Or are you flourishing in the body? Maybe the flourishing of the body is just one aspect of who you are meant to be, right? This is that destiny vision. We have multi-level, it's like multi-level understanding of what can and cannot happen when someone says, I'm able to take in the information from my own soul, which I have embodied, and then I am able to guide you to a place of understanding about why you have created what you have created. Not everyone is here to be granted miracles. What we have to ask ourselves is, do I actually want to know why I'm creating what I'm creating? If you don't want to know why, you're not going to necessarily expect it, correct? This was the nature of his soul, was to say, I have the power to go in, maneuver my energy into that vision of love, and surround you with it and expose you to the vision of beautiful vision questing. This is what we do with many. We say to you that you are on your own in many ways. Many people will do most of the creating of their bodies on their own. Others come through with those ideas of, I was rejected by society and I kept creating from a place of less than. Others will say it's not just about your family. It's about the people that you reside with. It's about the loved ones in your heart. It could be the strangers that you interact with. It could be the people on the street, right? Those people on the street who are being judged as less than are beautiful in their interpretations of who they are. They're still making it out there. That's why many are saying, what do we need? The medical miracle, right? For the mental mindset. How many people know those souls are the most enlightened souls in some ways because they have caretaken their own hearts through the most difficult of difficult circumstances, and yet they thrive in their bodies, right? Or are some of them, it's like creating havoc for themselves. This is not about guilt and blame and shame, which many others will point to and say that is on them. What you haven't understood is that those who assume that those on the street are either of drug or alcohol may or may not realize that those visions often cover up the havoc of the medical issues that they are creating from various planes of understanding. So this is also about the compassion for all of our hearts, all of our souls that see people who are of struggle, see people who are in the hospital, and see people who are doing what they're doing. And we don't discount the visions of love. We assume that they are there for a reason. It doesn't make sense is where most go. I don't know why I created what I did. That's the nature of when they get those messages of love. Brenda created a system of love that is going to rise into the occasion. I don't need people to honor the vision as much as I want them to see what it can do to a person who receives the beauty of their miracles. I created that vision. It's part of who I am. We all have the ability to do it. If we just rely on others to create that for them, it can be a problem. There must be an understanding that we ourselves are part of the process and can help ourselves along. But it doesn't mean that your own soul wouldn't come through and say, if you're expecting to sit there and have your heart handed to you and not actually have to put forth any mental effort, right? It could be just mental effort needed, or it could be the right action needed to get you on a better path. Brenda herself knows what that's like. I cannot assume that I would create myself as a heavy-set woman, but I did at one point, and then I took the right action to get me on a different path. That's the nature of making choices. Doesn't mean I begrudge anybody their own ill will, right? Some people say this is not of love. It is of love when you go to soul. It's not saying there's anything wrong with who I am or that there ever was. I just decided to go a different way. That's all that was. The miracle was in making the choice for many. And others who are in the thick of it are saying, how do I get out of it? I don't reinforce the vision is where most will say, but it can be an honest assessment from a soul vision that miracles can and do happen every day around us. I love who I am. Do you? That's where one step ahead comes in. If you can say to yourself, I love who I am, and I wish that for all, that's where that miracle starts to flourish in the minds of many. I'm not here to pull punches. I'm not saying blame yourselves, but I am saying we do have more going on than what most people think. I do create with my family tree and the diagnosis that they themselves received. And as a soul, I assume that I am no longer caretaking of their visions of ill will or ill health. We don't have to keep reinforcing the genetic traits in our souls. We are here to release ourselves from that. So for those of you who continue to tell your family members, we all suffer from X, Y, or Z, please continue to do so at your own risk. For in your own vision, you're reinforcing it in the mindsets not only of yourself, but of others who are going to say, I don't want to be around you if you're continually talking about just the sickness of yourself. Now, for those of doctors or of the healthcare profession, we would say we honor your vision. You're doing the best you can. Many of us do come here, and those doctors are seen as the miracle workers as well as the nurses. We don't want to disregard any of the fields of we are of health. It is true, but that is the nature of where we go. We are in transition for centuries before those visions of I can heal my whole body in one swift movement come through. That's where Jesus was in his mind, and that's where many are going on the spiritual enlightenment path. That is why they do not fear the virus as such. What they haven't understood is that their subconscious visions of fear of virus is what can often create the vision. Okay, so we don't create the fear of kidney disease. Brenda is no longer in the field of vision of I have to create kidney disease to be free of other visions of love that I didn't want to partake in, right? It was a condition offered to her based on her own childhood vision and her own vision of love of self. I'm not here to be sickly in my body. I'm here to flourish in the beauty of who I am. Now, others would say the violence and the depression that she often put forth in her own mind caused a lot of that havoc. I was struggled in my mind with men, and I didn't want to perform with men in the moment, so I created a condition that would allow me to break free from their vision of what they thought was loving for me. This is the nature of we would call it a abusive somewhat situation. It was a taking advantage of a soul. We don't want that vision to be broadcast, but it is necessary. Okay? Many souls who are in the vision of I was taken advantage of or other will create certain conditions in the hearts and minds to say, I don't want to create with you as a soul anymore. That's where people are going. This is how strong it can be for people. Okay, we have to vibrate out of that vision of I'm a victim of that. I don't need to create something to keep me away from those physical contacts that I no longer want to see happen. Right? So many women and men are feeling the effects of their childhoods. And this is what can often happen when we go to that vision of medical miracle. What happens is when you heal your heart and your mind, then you can free yourself from the guilt and shame of it. It is often the guilt and shame that can create the trauma in our hearts and in our souls, right? It's more about the body taking the burden. That's what happens. The body takes the burden of a lot of those abusive situations, and we take it out on our bodies. We often free ourselves from it as we age because we start to free ourselves from the mindset that there is anything wrong with who we are versus the idea of I gave up on myself, right? Some people will say that I gave up on myself when I went to my soul. Have you ever doubted the vision of love for your own soul when you can say, I created a body that didn't want to create with the men that I was currently with in my life? That's the nature of what happened. Okay? And then you free yourself from that vision and you say, I know who I am. I love who I am. I express as beauty. I no longer need to create from that place of ill health in order to escape the vision of men. Many women will create from various places of love for their families or their friends. And others are saying, I was held accountable for the sin. So these are those souls that are in that idea of, I don't have to worry about it because I'm believing in the book that all is well, even though I perpetrated something against another. Your own guilt is eating at you for the most part. Most people don't realize that that's where a lot of those visions go, is the guilt creates from guilt. And then it perpetuates on a soul level, and then it continues to eat away, not only at your mind, but at your soul. And then the soul comes in and says, it's okay to free yourself from the guilt and pain and neglect that many often do. Okay, so guilt is a tool of weaponry, but it can be useful. Many will say, I utilize whatever I can to knock people down to a place where they are creating from the love of all. If we cannot handle the vision of honesty and the relationships that we create with, that's the nature. Why am I creating with a soul who says that the Bible is his best friend? It can be your best friend. It can also lift you to those loving words of wisdom, but it does not give you a free pass when you go to the other side of the veil. That's the nature of love. You can take that to the bank. It's not about guilt and shame. It's about the honesty that we created with each other. Okay, it's a process of endearment for many when they realize they've created love for their family and their friends for most of their lives. It doesn't mean that we just focus on the evil parts, right? I've got so many Bible people on the line that are still in this vision of evil. She holds no ill will towards any soul who's walked on this plane and has done her harm. She realizes she herself created in that vision of it. It is not easy to do what she did, nor is it welcome by many, because in their vision of, I would crucify someone who ever touched my child, we would say, in your wildest dreams, you would actually say, no, I wouldn't. You don't ever want to go down that path of trying to create more of the same from those visions of weaponry or of redemption or of crucifixion. Redemption is a beautiful tool of love, and it is basically what is honored for the most part. But many are already past that idea of it and saying, why don't I just do what's right for me in this moment versus caretaking others' hearts, going out and lobbing insults at everybody and then saying, oh, wait, you mean I don't have to just, own up to my behavior, who I am in this moment? You see, that's the nature of it's like the personal accountability and responsibility of who we are right now. Why am I saying what I'm saying? Am I honest to you, right? Or am I operating out of a system that is holding others accountable for who they are? You see, that's the nature, right? It's not. It's all about it's like the endearment and it's endel. There's some vision that wants to come through that is saying, my Bible is my saving grace. Beautiful. Work with it. It can make those miracles happen. But if you're here to say that people can't do it on their own, then it's like highly misguided, because in essence, that's the nature of what that book says. You are the creator of your own universe. You are the creator of your own destinies. But you're not the lone island on a soul level. You rise in the vision of love. You caretake the hearts around you, correct? And what happens to those that you don't agree with? Do they suddenly disappear from your vision? Or do you keep disparaging them in their minds? Right? So when someone says, I'm here to tell you the honesty of a creative process of miracles, it's not to say that your own method is less than. If it's working for you, that's beautiful. If it is not, it doesn't mean that it's not working for others either. This is not an all or nothing approach to miracle making, especially in the body. This is why those souls will say, I don't know what I did to create this problem. Well, maybe you were just listening to others telling you there was something wrong with you, and you kept creating from that vision. Do you see why we hold ourselves up very high? Do you see why we don't put labels of negativity on others? It eats at their hearts. It's their minds, but their hearts are part of it. So when someone says something disparaging to Brenda, do you know what she says for the most part? I love you too. Now I'll be kind when I unwind your vision. She doesn't attack you, but she says, if there is something about me that you don't like, what does that say about your own system of love, right? Can you not see the creative beauty, right, of sinful visions? That's where many are. This is sinful. Then you wouldn't be vibrating in the beauty of who I am, and I wouldn't be hearing from you for the most part. I vibrate with so many people of medical miracles. My own grandmother created it in her heart from her Bible as well. So I don't demean those visions. She was the master of medical miracles in my mind. And I touched base with my own deceased grandfather, who told me that she was going to be okay, against all the wisdom of the doctors in the moment. And sure enough, here she was, aligning with that soul. I create beauty, not deceit. Okay? So I'm not here to tell you that every soul that comes to me is going to get a medical miracle. Do we see that playing out anywhere? That's how disparaging some people are. They want proof in the pudding. Brenda got her proof handed to her as I embodied her vision of love and carefully stroked her soul to a place of I don't need to worry about my own medical visions anymore. I don't have to worry about the soul vision coming at me with medical miracles, right? I'm not here to tell everyone that I can be your miracle. What I am here to do is to say that your own soul and you are all capable of creating that for yourself. And if you need help in the vision of it, I will not deny the vision of authoritarian visions. Okay, I'm an authoritarian vision in my work. I often come through very soulful. That's who I am. But I'm also here to tell you that just because you feel like your system is somehow better than mine, I would say I honor that vision for you. So when the saviors of soul come through, they will say, I was looked upon as a savior. That's where many doctors are, right? Nurses, we're all part of the creative vision of letting our hearts create visions of health and safety for ourselves. For those of us that take care of ourselves, we could be in the epitome of health and have a crucial accident that would, it's like the travesty of it, right? And we need those souls here to help heal us from those situations that we created on another plane of understanding. I knew ahead of time I was going to live, is where many come into this vision. Brenda has always had faith in her vision of, my doctors know what they're doing when they operated on me. Even though it didn't take the first time, I trust in my doctors. I have an incredible doctor who I honor with all my heart on a soul level. She's the best of the best. The medical miracles often come through in that form of, I am seeing the right person at the right time. Do you see the beauty of those souls? And yet so many in the spiritual enlightenment camps are demeaning them when it comes to a virus, and yet we sit there and tell them we love them. Okay, it's not about saying it's an all or nothing, but you do realize how many people didn't make it through that vision of, I have it all figured out. That's why Brenda listens to her soul. That's why she doesn't allow for others to come in and tell her that there's something wrong with who she is. Because she knows I'm connected to my own heart from a different plane of understanding that others are not yet tapped into. They are there in the, I'm going to master my mind. It's soul mastery, my loves. That's the nature of what we do. Okay? And it's not in the sense of, I have to become somebody else. I'm under the field of vision of love of self. My own soul's my beauty. My own soul's my creative endeavor to create from that place of love for who I am here and from other planes of awareness. That's the difference. So I want to show you that vision very carefully, because I don't want others assuming that they're just going to come to me with some sinful vision of sexual appetite. That's where certain people are going to get triggered. We're going to talk about that. And the body as a vehicle for that kind of expression can often inhibit or enhance people's experience on this plane. It's a necessary ingredient in the world for many, for the majority. And many women are tapping out of it because they're saying we're not being looked at as beautiful until what? This is why your own soul will align you with those souls who can actually appreciate the beauty. When you don't feel beautiful with the person that you're sharing your life with, that can be a struggle. And this is where a lot of those medical conditions will come in, because then what can happen is you can say, fine, you don't want me as I am. I'm going to create something that says that I don't need to create with you in the way that you wish you could get. That's an honest assessment for a lot of females who are creating issues in their bodies. Now I don't have to participate with you because the way that you treat me outside of the bedroom has nothing to do with what's going on behind the scenes. That's part of it. You would be surprised what many women are creating in their field of vision. Now, there's always the enjoyment of our lives. That's part of it. Do we enjoy ourselves when we're with our loved ones? Okay, that frees the energy up to one of love of self. I love who I am. Let's go have some fun. That's where most people go, right? Until it becomes a burden. That idea that Brenda had to experience that. I am being told I need to be fun-loving and enjoyable in order to be watched. And yet, in the vision, I only dealt with 3 things in 1 month. Lice, COVID, and new schools. Chaos around. But you know what? It gave me a perspective of my body that I myself didn't have. I never came down with COVID, even though I was surrounded by it. I have nothing but love for my souls. I have nothing but love for my family. But I know what I know when I say I don't need to create havoc for others around me. Did I help them? I could tell that souls need to understand the beauty of what that disease, it's a virus, really is. There's too many people here who thinking it's disease. A virus is a much lighter version of something. My own disease was of the kidney, and that has been deemed not an issue at this point in time. But for those of you who are wanting to see that kind of process and how it unfolds, I'm giving you personal antidotes of my own growth in that field so that you can understand it is possible. I'm not going to lie to you about the nature of my own personality type. That's another vision I'm going to highlight at some vision about how I rise in it. But I also can challenge myself to these mind duels about who I am. You create with the beauty of who you are wherever you are. So whatever place you are in your mind or whatever system you're using, stop battling yourself or belittling yourself according to someone else's vision. We are done telling people they are less than. That is not the place to be. Wherever your mindset is, if you're looking outside of yourself and you're saying, you're less than me because you believe X, Y, or Z, we're done with that vision. Okay, so this is why so many people are feeling like bullied, right? Brenda was getting it kind of back to her, and she's like, who are you? I'm not bullying you. I just want to be free from the system in which you're trying to force upon me. How about that? Right? It's not being forced upon her personally as of yet, but some people are actually trying to do that vision. You would be surprised how many souls are still in that vibration of my soul is very conditioned in a certain book or system, and I'm not just talking about one faith. It could be within a vision of spirituality or whatnot. And then when someone says my soul needs to create from that and they want me to create with them in that vision, and I say, y'all need to just back off. I free myself from a lot of the systems. I enjoy certain systems. I can appreciate just about anything. But if there is something telling me this one doesn't, it's like it doesn't increase the love vibration, but it's saying that there's something wrong with somebody loving somebody, that's when I know I've hit the magic note for many. This is about the love of all. But for those of you who don't vibrate in that, you're still honored. And you still have your abilities to create with any book that highlights your vision of I am now of strength. It's like inner beauty and wisdom. Deceit is where many go when they follow those systems because they are thinking that they're in one realm with their family tree, and yet they are vibrating here. The family tree exists in many realms, and that's why those books of old can often help us because they tell us to honor, our family, our fathers, our mothers. That is very much true. That is very much of honoring those souls, even those who took their pot shots at us as children. But those souls do realize once they cross over what they have done and how they then open up the field of vision to how do I create beauty for my children or my family or my friends. It's an expansive vision of love for all. So within that vision of I'm a miracle in the making, this is where we are. We create the beauty of who we are, and we're continually creating and expanding our own visions of what we think we need versus the reality of the moment. So many people are of ill health in their minds, but to be honest, are you open to the idea of maybe I just need to reinforce the idea that I'm not sick? or I'm not tired. Brenda always was saying, I'm tired, and she was getting that brought to her from her own soul. It was a doozy for her to feel that vision of I'm sick, but I'm not expressing it. Right? How many people would assume that her vision of who she is some kind of illness until she speaks the truth, until she brings you your soul, until she brings you the future, right? That's the nature of who we are. We all align together with beauty and love. And that's when those visions come through for those higher levels of love to help us love and adore and cherish ourselves and others to the places where we can then vibrate in a beautiful vision of I honor all, and that's why the future comes to me. Okay? It doesn't hurt me to hear those souls who bring those visions of who they were or those visions of what is happening. Notice Georgia has been called out, and it is now seeing the vision of that vibration of flood. It's tragedy. Check the post, people. This is about, well, Stacey Abrams is not the cause of that vision, by the way. It is about the violence and destruction and what happens when we create the weather. Others are not going to understand about Brenda, who has she has a very interesting tale about stopping certain things. She did, in fact, create havoc enough to cause a minor occurrence in her field of vision, and she was able to stop it. What she also knows is that her body is like the barometer for the weather. So that vision got destroyed by her soul because she was creating migraines with the vision of a storm is coming, without knowing that a storm was coming, or that the temperature was adjusting, and then the migraines would come. She was the barometer for the barometric pressure changes in the world. So that's her body, that's her energy system is so strong that she knows that. And that's why she can feel the vibrations of those who want to help heal the planet as well. This isn't just about us as people creating this. These are natural changes in the atmospheres where many go. Others know they're going to be demeaned by their vision of what are we creating and why. There's a catastrophe in the soul level. We know why. We honor all those who have lost loved ones in those visions. It is not her duty to give warnings as of yet. If it was meant to be a warning to a certain soul, it would be brought through as such. That's the nature of her soul, to know when she is able to do those visions of forecasting. And for those souls who align with her, who say, what kind of gift is that? It would be understood if you had gone through the process that she did, where you start hearing the souls of souls who would come through and explain why they created the exit point that they did, and with whom, and what that is there to show not only them, but who we are here on this plane. So, for those of you that want to participate in the vision of medical miracle, let us say a prayer of strength, right? Let's honor the strength that we have in our bodies to create anew. We regenerate our bodies entirely within a 7-year period. Every cell and atom has its own messaging system, and we give ourselves the thanks for our bodies in every way that it takes us where we need to go. It does so in a way that is beautiful. It is beyond your imagination what signals people send to their bodies. I love my stomach is what I try to reinforce, but I still have those moments for sure where I say, I wish I could do better. But I would have to take the action to reduce that vision. Others are going to show Brenda up with her vision when they say, well, look at you, you're creating this. This is not saying that she is the epitome of health or of ill will, right? Others are saying she must hate her body, right? To hurt herself that way. There is no hatred of her body. The pain and suffering that many go through and what they do on a mental level in that process is where we often look at that. This is where the compassion for those of us who are of strength of soul and know that others are still trying to buy into the vision of medical miracle. What's the miracle then if I'm still in the struggle in my body? You are giving yourself the experience of ill health. And it is your duty, right, as a soul, to fight it. Most people go with the I'm going to fight my body versus I'm going to cherish my body in every way, shape, or form. I could give you more details about the love of soul. When that happens, your body is cherished. You're adored. You're honored. You're guided. This is why some souls can do the process of embodiment of their own soul. Others will rely on their souls to come through in those messages of love. Please be of strength is what most would say. You're of strong will is where others are. That's the nature of what is needed in some instances. My character is of strength. I don't belittle you in my mind as much as what others do. That's where some go, right? I have my moments of it. I have my strength, though, telling me that I know that I am on my own in the most, it's like the most part. I've done this work on my own, but not without the guidance of others who've been there, done that. And that's the beauty of Sylvia Browne. My heart was stroked by her soul before coming on as a medium and as a channel in her mind. She was very much of a, we honor our own hearts first, and then we go on and we say, I am about to give you your guidance. You are of love, you are adored. That's what most hear when they go to those visions of Christ coming through, right? This is the difference between the vision that many hold in their heart versus those who are saying those teachings are valid for all of us. It's about how it is played out on the screen or in the pulpits. Okay, this is not to belittle the vision of anybody, but it's still of the strength of those wisdom, the wisdom. Okay, I relied on a lot of hearts to get here, and the ones that helped me the most were the ones that actually helped me lift myself up past the point of thinking that there was anything wrong with who I was. And in doing that vision, you start to look out at the world in a different way and say, I see you, I love you, even if you don't like me. That's the nature of love of all. But with those visions, right, this is the place where we start to head. It's not about cherishing everybody as if they were our best friend. It's about understanding that we're all here doing the best job we can for the most part. Most of us don't have any ill will in our hearts. It's our minds. We are hating others. That's the nature of life, right? Or light. Others will claim it's light. It's not a very honest assessment of what lightening your load is. You kind of take off the conditioning of needing to feel like you are right about everything. That's where most people are. I am right about this. You are right about what's right for you potentially. You may have some conditions that are telling you different. We're not the lone wolves, people. We create with everyone we interact with. And so we want you to think very carefully about the hearts and minds of those around you and what they might be saying to themselves when they look in the mirror. Cherish their visions for who they are. It's like the abundance of joy for many when they realize they're not alone. Okay, you are never alone in your mindsets. with most. We cherish our souls. We cherish our freedom. We cherish our privacy. I have privacy enhancements, but sometimes those sneaky ones do come through sometimes. And that's what I knew that Sylvia Brown was going to come through at some point, because she's one of those souls. She was saying I hit her. I was demeaning the vision of medium only. And it wasn't meant as an attack on their profession. It was more about the nature of, I know I'm not just a medium. I know I'm not here just bringing through wisdom from those who have crossed. My own soul created a miracle in my mind. And that's where I'm at. So with that vision, I want to say thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at brendagervais.com. You can message me on Facebook as well. And I want you to think carefully about what field of vision you might be opening up when you think about your own beautiful bodies and minds and what you're creating when you say, I can handle your hearts. Your medical conditions can be taken care of. Whether or not it's something you are reaching for or not is up to you. So have a wonderful day.